In this video, I'm going to explain to you what AI agents are. So basically, there are 5 components of an AI agent. Each of these components is simple to understand on its own. So I'm going to start by explaining them one by one. That will help you build an intuitive understanding of what an agent is. All right, so the first component is the brain of the agent. And obviously, this is one of the most important ones. This is what makes the AI agent an AI agent. It could be difficult to understand how can a computer program have a brain. As obscure it might sound, believe it or not, you are very familiar with this brain part. I think most of you are familiar with ChatGPT, right? So here's ChatGPT. You can come here and ask any question. For example, why dogs are cute. And you ask this question and ChatGPT will start to come up with an answer. This app that you see here is basically just an interface built on top of what's called a language model, or a large language model. So these language models are the same models that AI agents use. This LLM processes whatever input it receives and it gives back an output. Here, this was your input, a simple question, and then this is the output. The language model processed the question and returned an answer. The way these language models work, there's plenty of them, is it's quite complex, but it's also on the surface very simple. They are predicting the next token, and the token just means a piece of text or a character in this context. I don't want to get into language models too much. It could be a topic of a separate video, but I do want to demystify them just a tiny bit because it is helpful from the perspective of AI agents. So I'm going to just take this question and I want to show you something. If I come to this transformer explainer and I put in this question and I click generate, look at what happens. This is a simple visualizer that is supposed to show you what happens inside a language model. You can ignore most of the things that are here. The key takeaway is that I gave a question. The language model breaks it down into individual, what's called tokens. These tokens are passed through a series of mathematical functions, and there's some calculations happening within the language model, and the output is a probability distribution. These are predictions for the most likely next token. The most likely next token in this case is a new line, but there's also other characters which have a more decent likelihood of occurring. In a sense, what the language model is doing when you're asking questions like this, it is processing the question and it is predicting the most likely next tokens, and it is constructing an answer based on that. And within the model, there is this very smart reasoning engine. It is able to weight certain words, understand the context, able to map the relationship between certain words. And considering all of this, it will output the probability distribution for the most likely next word, and it will keep generating the answer. I know this is an oversimplified explanation of language models, but at least it gives you an idea of what goes inside in this brain part of the agent. If you are interested to learn more about this, I highly recommend Andrei Karpathy's channel. He's a very smart scientist, and he talks about this a lot in understandable, simple language. All right, going back to our topic, just as like you can talk to the GPT model through the ChatGPT interface, your AI agent is able to talk to the very same GPT model and is able to use it as sort of a reasoning engine to decide what to do and how to process certain information. The way the agent talks to the GPT model is through what's called an API connection. OpenAI has this developer portal which shows developers how to initiate a connection to the language model and how to programmatically contact the language model to be able to leverage its capabilities. For example, you have an email from a customer. You want to somehow categorize this email automatically. You want your agent to be able to do that. In this case, you can write a simple computer program to iterate over your mailbox. Then your agent would be able to grab the text portion of the email, use it as an input to the language model, and call the language model. So kind of say, hey, please read the following email and categorize it into 3 categories and output the category label only. And you will receive back an output, which would be just a simple label. And then you can control from your end the program flow. So you can decide what to do if you get the label A, or what to do if you get label B, and so on and so forth. But it's important to notice that the actual reasoning part is done by the language model. So you leveraged programmatically the capabilities of the language model this way. And that kind of brings us to the second point. To be able to really unlock a series of capabilities. We want our agent to be able to take actions, not just reason, but to reach certain conclusions and take appropriate actions. So the next part of an AI agent is what's called a tool. Tools are its hands and eyes that are allowing it to do real things in the real world, or in the virtual world for now, right? So in practice, tools are functions that the agent can call. If you think back to high school, you might remember that functions are essentially like little machines. You have a little machine, you throw in something, then there's some work done by the machine, and it gives you back an output. So input, processing, output. That's kind of what a function is doing. So for example, the user might want to figure out what is the weather. You would not be able to simply connect to the language model, to the brain, and ask, hey, what is the weather? Because the brain would realize that, okay, I would need to have access to some real internet data to be able to pull that information from somewhere. So for example, your agent might have a check weather tool. So anytime the user wants to check the weather, the AI agent can call this function and get the weather and give it to the user. And in similar fashion, you can give your agent all sorts of tools. You can give a tool to search Google, send an email, get information from a database, right? So anything like that is possible, but you would have to give the appropriate functions to your agent so that it can decide when to call which, depending on the situation. Okay, so the third important component of an AI agent is the persona. This is like a personality. So each human has a personality and each agent has a personality as well. This is more apparent when we're talking about customer-facing agents. If you have a chatbot or if you have an AI agent which is taking customer calls, then obviously you want your agent to behave in a consistent way and to have a consistent personality which aligns with your brand. So that's kind of the importance of it. And also if you have non-customer facing agents, it's still important. For example, if you have an agent that is trading the stock market for you, then you still want your agent to behave in a consistent way. You can create a more risk-averse personality for your agent so that it wouldn't engage in risky trades, or you can have an agent which is more aggressive, so it would take on higher risk trades. The way you set the personality for your agent is through what's called a system prompt, which is either you programmatically create when you connect to the language model, like programmatically call the language model, but there are platforms where you can build agents, and on those platforms, there's probably going to be like a section for creating a system prompt for the agent. So for example, on the ChatGPT developer portal, there is this assistant section which allows you to create simple agents. And here you have the system instructions. You can say you are a helpful assistant who does XYZ. And it even has this icon so it can pre-generate some text. So what would you like the model to do? I don't know, read emails and respond to customers, for example. If I do that and I click create, then it will generate a system instruction for this particular agent. So hold on. Right, there you go. For example, here you can see responses must be courteous, accurate, clearly addressed each part of the customer's message. So this kind of sets the tone and personality of the agent. And here's another example. This function is from an app which has plenty of features, but one feature is to talk to an AI nutrition advisor through chat. And the way that nutrition advisor AI works is that there's a customer interface which a customer uses to be able to talk to the AI, but in the background, there is this function call to OpenAI, and the session, so to speak, is initialized with this prompt, so the AI takes on this helpful nutrition coach personality when the customer is talking to it. So this would be another example how you would set the personality of the AI. All right, so fourth step is the memory of the AI. So this is a simple one. Obviously, you want to have some sort of a memory, store useful information for the AI to be able to tap into. AI building platforms usually make it very simple to utilize a memory. Even here on this OpenAI assistant platform, you can see there is this file search functionality, which you can enable. And this allows you to upload files, which the agent can leverage. For example, if a customer is asking questions about your business, you can upload a Word document which has answers about your business, and then the agent can tap into that information. In a similar fashion, on the VoiceFlow, you have this knowledge base section where you can upload documents. So add data source and you will be able to upload files. This is just a simple Word document which contains some information about the business. If the customer is asking why choose this particular business, then instead of letting the AI come up with the random answers, it would tap into this information which is in this document, and then it would answer the customer's query. All right, so the fifth and last step, the interface, which is just where you are communicating with the agent. So this could be really anything from a simple chat bot embedded into your website, for example, to creating an agent which is connected to your phone numbers. Another interface would be a simple cloud server place where the agent would live. So your agent would run in the cloud 24/7 and process information or do tasks based on whatever purpose you have the agent for. All right, so this is about AI agents. I hope you found this video useful. Make sure to subscribe to the channel or comment if you have questions, and see you in the next video.